10 secret tricks empaths use when dealing with narcissists. You may think they've forgotten you, but narcissists have a memory like a vault. Even years later, there are things they can't stop thinking about. What if I told you that your absence doesn't equal their peace? That even after all this time, there are words, moments, and choices that echo in their mind louder than you might believe? In this video, we're going to explore something many people never expect. What happens long after you go no contact? We'll dive into the surprising triggers that keep you in their mind, why those memories hurt them more than they hurt you, and what it means for your healing journey, and how you can reclaim your power completely. So stay with me. This isn't about revenge. It's about awareness, understanding, and taking back your narrative. Chapter 1. The guilt trip lines they still rehearse. Even long after you've walked away, the narcissist doesn't stop the performance. In their minds, they're still delivering the same guilt-soaked lines. I gave you everything. You ruined us. You abandoned me when I needed you most. These aren't confessions. They're strategies, designed not to reflect on our own behavior, but to rewrite the story in a way where you're the villain. And yes, even if you blocked them, even if you haven't spoken in years, they're still rehearsing, still telling mutual friends, or even whispering in their own head those same old lines. Why? Because if they accept the truth that you left because you had to, they'd have to face themselves. And that's something narcissists work their whole life to avoid. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had their words suddenly echo in your mind long after they were gone? Did it make you question yourself? Even for a moment? That's the residue of manipulation. But the good news is, recognizing it is a first step to releasing it. So now I'd love to hear from you. What was the line they used to make you feel guilty? Drop in the comments, and let's take its power away together. There's more ahead. Let's keep going. Let's go back to that moment, the one that still lingers in your memory sometimes. They looked you in the eyes, voice soft, full of promises. I'll go to therapy. I've changed. I swear, this time will be different. Maybe you wanted to believe them. Maybe you did. Maybe their words reached that part of you that still held on a hope. And for a while, you questioned yourself. You wondered, what if they really mean it this time? What if they're telling the truth? But here's the truth. Narcissists don't make promises to heal. They make promises to maintain control. Even now, even after everything, they still rehearse those lines. Not to convince you anymore, but to convince themselves. They tell themselves, I tried. They say, they didn't wait long enough. They convince their own mind that the failure was on you, not on them. But late at night, when no one is watching, when they can't distract themselves with validation or attention, those words come back. Every empty promise, every vow of change they never followed through on. It becomes a mirror. And they hate what they see in that mirror. They realize you walked away not because you didn't care, but because you finally cared about yourself more. That realization stings. Not because they regret hurting you in any deep, empathetic way, but because your departure exposed their lie. The lie that they were ever going to change. So, do you remember that moment they made you a promise they never kept? Now, let's talk about something they'll never admit, but never forget. The moment you said no. No to the guilt trips. No to the late night arguments. No to the twisted logic that made you the villain in every story. You see, narcissists fear one thing above all else, losing control. And boundaries? Boundaries are the ultimate threat to that control. Every time you enforce a limit, whether it was blocking their number, refusing to respond to manipulation, or even walking out mid-argument, you chipped away at the fantasy they built for themselves. A fantasy where they always held the power. Where you were always available, always forgiving, always shrinking so they could shine. So when you stood your ground, when you refused to explain yourself or engage in their chaos, it shook them. And yes, they remember. Vividly. That one text you didn't answer. That time you didn't rise to the bait. That moment you left and didn't come back. They'll never tell anyone, but those memories haunt them, not because they miss you in the way we understand missing, but because those moments proved something terrifying. They never fully owned you. And if they didn't own you, they couldn't control you. And if they couldn't control you, then maybe, just maybe, they were never as powerful as they thought. So, what was the boundary you set that finally made you feel free? Was it the first no? The last goodbye? The silence that followed? Share it below. Have you ever wondered what memories they hold on to long after you've gone silent? It's not the fights. It's not the tension. It's the good times. The ones they now try to relive without you. They remember the laughter, the vacations, the inside jokes that only made sense to the two of you. Those small, shared moments where everything felt almost real. Those are the memories they replay, not out of love, but out of strategy. Because for them, those were tools. Tools to hook you in. To remind you of how good it used to be. And now that you're gone, they recycle those memories like bait. On birthdays, they think of you. On holidays, they scroll back through photos or texts. On anniversaries, they may even reach out, or at least want to, not because they miss you as a person, but because those days were their leverage. Nostalgia becomes a weapon in their arsenal, a way to blur your memory, a way to make you forget the bad and remember the illusion. Have you had them reach out on a special day? Maybe it felt familiar, warm, even, but deep down, you knew it wasn't about reconnection. It was about control disguised as sentiment. Have you ever experienced that? Now, let's talk about the part they never admit, the silence you left behind. When you chose peace and truly left, you did something most people don't. You disappeared. And that void you created, it hit them harder than you think. Narcissists thrive on attention, validation, reaction, whether praise or pain. They just need to be noticed. So when you go silent, when you block, don't text back, stop checking their stories, it's like taking oxygen from someone gasping for air. They don't know what to do with that kind of absence. It's not just quiet, it's threatening. It forces them to face their insignificance. And for someone who built an entire identity around being the center of attention, that's unbearable. They may act unbothered, brag, post, pretend. But behind that curtain is confusion, anger, and a spiral they can't escape. Your absence is not just space, it's a statement. And the reason it haunts them? It proves they never had the control. They thought they did. Can you relate? And now, let's talk about something they hate even more than silence. Your success. The fact that you got back up, started healing, found peace, started thriving. That's the real wound they can't bandage. Because every step you take forward is proof that they were never your foundation, that everything you built after them, you built despite them. They see your growth, but they can't stand that they weren't part of it, that they can't take credit. And in their mind, that's an injustice. So what do? They lie. They spin stories. I'm the reason they're strong now. They wouldn't be who they are without me. Anything to stay in your narrative, even if only through delusion. But the truth is, you stopped needing them, and they've never recovered from that truth. And here's the best part. They know it. They know they weren't your savior. They were the storm. And still, you rebuilt. Stronger, quieter, wiser. So ask yourself, are you in a chapter of growth right now? Have you begun to feel that success, that peace, that clarity? Do you remember those moments when you truly came alive? When you stepped onto a stage and spoke with conviction? When you nailed that interview, finally landed that job, or spoke up for yourself in a room full of silence? Or when you just stood tall, despite everything crashing around you? Now ask yourself, do you think they forgot those moments? They didn't. In fact, those are the very moments they remember most vividly. Not because they were proud of you, not because they celebrated you, but because your light made them feel small. When you shine, narcissists don't feel inspired. They feel threatened. Because in your strength, they see everything they lack. Every word you spoke with clarity, every success you reached for on your own, every time you said no and meant it, those weren't just moments to them. They were reminders. Reminders that no matter how much they tried to control you, they could never become you. They saw your power, and it scared them. Think back. Was there a time you accomplished something, only to have them suddenly sulk, start a fight, or shift the focus back to them. That wasn't coincidence. That was fear. So let me ask you, what's a moment you felt proud of only to have someone try to dim it? Have you experienced that shine being stolen? Share it, because your story might help someone realize they were never too much. They were just too powerful for someone who needed them to stay small. Let's go even deeper. Your empathy, your creativity, your courage, your light, all of those traits, they wanted them. Not to honor them, but to mimic them, to wear them like a mask. While you were around, they mirrored your kindness, quoted your insights, took credit for your emotional labor. They watched how you made people feel safe and seen, and they tried to replicate that. But here's the truth. They couldn't, because imitation has no depth. What they were copying was the surface, the visible version of your authenticity. But they could never fake your essence. And now, even in your absence, they look for people who remind them of you. They're drawn to your qualities. Still. But instead of admiration, there's a bitterness. Because no matter who they find, no one else can fill your shoes. You were so powerful, so real, that they're still chasing echoes of your energy. Have you noticed this? That even after you're gone, people like them still seek out what only you could bring? If that resonates, talk about it below. What part of yourself do you now realize they tried to take? And now, the most painful part, those moments when you were soft, when you were open, when you let your guard down, not because you were weak, but because you loved deeply and you trusted fully. They remember those too, but not in the way you'd hope. They don't look back on those memories with warmth. They look back on them like trophies, proof that they had power over someone as strong as you. That moment you cried to them about your childhood, they remember it. That time you apologized when you didn't need to, just to keep the peace, they remember it. The secrets you shared, the fears you exposed, the love you offer without condition, they didn't cherish it. They weaponized it. To them, your vulnerability was an advantage, a way in, a tool they could use when you dared to set a boundary or walk away. And now, those memories replay in their mind. You trusted them. They used it. And deep down, they know it. But here's what they'll never have again. Access. You've grown. You've seen through the facade. And your softness? It didn't disappear. It just became more selective. You still love, still trust, still open your heart. But now, only to those who deserve it. There's a moment that lives in their mind, vivid, raw, and impossible to forget. It's the moment you stop responding. The day you stopped explaining, stopped defending, stopped trying to be understood. The moment you walked away. They didn't expect it. They never believed you would. Because to them, the control they thought they had over you was a given, undeniable. They believed that your loyalty, your empathy, your forgiveness were permanent. But when you left, you shattered that illusion. You broke the script. You proved that they were never in control. You were just compassionate. And the moment you finally prioritized your peace over their chaos, that moment split their reality in two. It haunts them. Because it wasn't just about losing you. It was about losing the image they had of themselves. Someone who could always get you back. Someone who thought they owned your reactions, your time, your heart. And now, even in their quietest moments, they remember that day, that silence, that absence, that undeniable proof that you had power they never understood. They'll tell people they've moved on. They might laugh at your name, pretend you never mattered, claim that they barely remember the relationship. But that's just performance. Because narcissists don't forget. Especially not when experience was tied to control, power, or the collapse of their image. You see, emotionally significant memories, especially ones where they felt exposed or challenged, don't just vanish. They get etched into their psyche. Not out of love, but out of ego. And your departure? It wasn't just painful, it was humiliating. To lose someone they thought would always stay. To feel powerless against the silence they used to weaponize themselves. And deep down, they don't see you as a separate person. They saw you as an extension of them. Something that belonged to them. So when you left, it wasn't just a breakup. It was a threat to their entire identity. They might pretend otherwise, but their mind replays it. The loss, the rejection, the proof that their charm was enough. that their manipulation stopped working. Now, let's talk about you. Because here's what matters most. None of these memories mean they valued you the way you deserved. Their obsession? It doesn't reflect your worth. It reflects their instability. Their inability to let go doesn't mean you were their soulmate. It means you disrupted their illusion. But that disruption was necessary and powerful. Each time they remember your strength, your goodbye, your refusal to shrink, they're reminded that you had the courage they couldn't fake. And that's where your healing begins. Reframe those memories not as signs of entanglement, but as proof of impact, proof that you mattered, not to their heart, but to their ego, and that your absence, it still speaks volumes. You're free now. Their haunted memories are just echoes in a cage you escaped from. They're stuck. You're not. So take a deep breath and repeat this truth. What they remember is not my burden. It's my power. Here's the truth we often forget. Narcissists don't just move on. They carry the weight of every boundary you set, every no you spoke, and every time you chose peace over performance. These 10 things, they haunt them, not out of remorse, but out of ego, out of loss, out of unmet control. And that's powerful. You are like a footprint in cement. No matter how much they try to scrub it out, reshape it, or deny it, it's there, permanent, a silent testament to your presence and your strength. So now let's turn it back to you. Which of these memories do you think haunts them most? Was it your silence, your strength, your ability to walk away? Share your experience. Your insight may be exactly what someone else needs to hear to find their own clarity. You'll find journal prompts, daily affirmations, and healing guides linked in description to help you process and grow. And if this voice speaks to your journey, subscribe. Join our community. Because this path of clarity, validation, and emotional freedom, you don't have to walk it alone. You've already reclaimed your story. Now let's keep writing it together